Pod SaaS, where we're putting the SaaS back in sassy. Sponsored by LeadrPro, where you can book demos with target customers on demand and fill your sales pipeline instantly.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pod SaaS. I'm your host Chris Shang, and today we have Alex Canter from Nextbite. How are you doing, Alex?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, of course. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Nextbite is, and also, who makes a good customer for you guys?
Yeah, so Nextbite is a portfolio of turnkey delivery-only restaurant brands, which are basically a new category of restaurants. It's restaurants that only exist online on apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats, and the food itself is actually being prepared out of the back of any underutilized kitchen. So as you know, lots of restaurants have slow parts of the day, slow days of the week that they can handle more business out of if they have the demand to do that. And we are in the business of creating that demand for them through these new menus that we're basically creating from scratch and then partnering with these restaurants that execute out of the back of their door, using their same fixed cost. The rent is already fixed. The staff is already in their kitchen, whether they're cooking food for one brand or many brands. So why not make more food? And we're here helping them do that. So we are in the business of well, I'll start by saying we're not in the business of renting kitchens or cooking food. We're not competing with restaurants, but rather partnering with these restaurants to sell more food to end consumers on these delivery apps. So our customer is basically restaurants, and we are creating all this new content that's going up on these different delivery apps. So
it's awesome. Yeah, I've definitely been subject to some of those experiences for sure. Very cool. And so a quick question before we kind of like jump into that is there a particular like restaurant type that makes better fit for your model than others?
You know, we started in the mom and pop world. We built our technology originally 5 years ago for the SMB segment of the restaurant industry. And naturally, we learned that a lot of these franchisee groups and these bigger chains actually have similar problems and issues. And our business has evolved quite a bit over the last few years. And we've now moved upstream and cover restaurants of all sizes, from local mom and pop coffee shops to large steakhouse chains and everything in between. And today, we're partnering with some large national groups like IHOP and others to create new brands that are running out of their kitchen. So it's a really exciting moment in time for us. Enterprise is sort of a newer development for us, but it's something that is already, a really good fit for our business, especially because, a lot of chains have times of the day where they're very busy and then other times where they're not busy at all and they can handle that extra volume. So
do you funnel up the types of menus and suggestions around like the types of food that they should offer? Or is that based on like data-driven insights, or is that something that's more along the lines of the kitchen's choice or the restaurant's choice?
Yeah, such a good question. So we look at a ton of data to know what's performing well in which markets or what time of day. There's a lot of trends that are happening quite quickly now because of things like TikTok and other apps that are spreading information faster than ever.
Yeah.
And we're looking at what people are searching for and what's going on internationally and what trends are emerging out of LA and New York that are moving in to the rest of the country. And breakfast is an interesting example. Breakfast is a category of food that traditionally isn't very popular on delivery apps, but in post-pandemic, in 2021 specifically, it grew over 400% as a category on these apps, because I think people are working from home more and figuring out that they can order their favorite coffee shop with a breakfast burrito, in the morning. And so we have over 20 brands now that we've brought to market. 3 of them are in the breakfast category, and one of our breakfast brands, Huevorito, it's a breakfast burrito concept. You would think it would, do really well in the morning, which it does, but it actually does well throughout the whole day and even late night. People are eating breakfast at all times of the day. So that's a category that we've exceeded in and done well in. And there's so many different types of brands that we've launched now, from grilled cheese sandwiches that perform really well on college campus markets to, celebrity brands like what we did with Hot Box by Wiz Khalifa, which is kind of a stoner brand. It's doing really well in cities where there's a big stoner communities.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Selling hot Cheeto, mac and cheese bowls and all
Yeah.
sorts of crazy stuff. So
Very cool. So I have a lot of questions around this, and especially around your background, right? Because you grew up in this restaurant business, and it seems like you've like the fourth, fifth generation. And Canter's Deli is a staple of the LA market. If anybody's in LA or is coming to visit LA, you probably have been or heard of Canter's and eaten some of that food. So I personally am a fan. And before we jump into that, your personal journey from that experience, and then obviously starting your own business, would love to just to get to know you a little bit better as a person. We do a series of, again, rapid fire questions. I'll make it really fast, really simple, nothing too personal, so we won't get into anything crazy like that.
love it. Bring it on. Let's go.
Cool. Awesome. Let's do it. All right. First question, real quick. Favorite entrepreneur and or startup story?
Really, I have so much empathy for any CEO that's been scaling their business to deal with, growing revenue and everything else that you have to do from a responsibility standpoint, and the people dynamics, and just there's so much to get right. So as I'm going through my own journey, I have so much admiration for people who have done it at much bigger stages. Jeff Bezos, Elon, all these big entrepreneurs and CEOs. I don't even understand how they've gotten through some of the things that they've gone through. So it's really impressive. I don't know.
No, that's a good answer.
I love learning from all sorts of people. We have over 32 investors on our cap table right now, 24 advisors that we've brought on over the last 5 years. And I really do look at a lot of the people in my own network as my biggest inspiration.
That's super awesome. And I think that's a great asset to have, obviously. Next question here is, what did you want to be as a kid? I know you grew up in the restaurant business, but like 8, 9, 10 years old, is that something you wanted to stay in, or did you want to be something else?
We're going deep here. I love it. So I am the fourth generation of Canter's Deli in LA. And just like my dad and my grandfather, I grew up, as a kid in the restaurant, waiting tables at 12 years old and working my way up through all the different positions. But I've always had the entrepreneurial bug. I've always loved the idea of creating business and serving customers. And I personally, all the roles that I worked at Canter's, I loved the front of house more than anything. I loved interacting with people. I loved, seeing their faces, answering questions for them, guiding them through the experience. And there's always kind of been this not pressure, but kind of feeling like I'm the one that's gonna come in and carry the torch forward, just like everyone else in my family has. And I actually, have always been passionate about starting businesses. Dating back to high school throughout college, I studied entrepreneurship as well, and I'm glad that I ended up in the startup world for restaurants, because that's what I'm really passionate about. I'm a huge foodie. I love going out to restaurants. I used to collect menus as a kid, and I love that I am now in this position to help many restaurants, operate and create a more profitable and sustainable model moving forward. So I'm really glad that things worked out the way that they did.
That's awesome. Next question here is most painful experience. And I'll give a quick context, which is I think a lot of exponential growth typically comes out of being in a place of extreme discomfort. So anything personally or professionally that you've gone through that was painful at the time, but you felt like you learned a lot from?
There's been a lot of moments where things were really, really challenging in this journey. I think the hardest by far for me was the first time that we had to do a RIF, letting go of a percentage of the company. It was actually in early 2020. We were anticipating and hunkering down for what could have been a really tough fundraising environment. And our business, the way that we've set it up, is designed to scale quickly and relies on outside capital, as many startups do. And so, there was a lot of conversation at the beginning of the pandemic around start hunkering down right now, brace for impact. And of course, our business was accelerated by all of it, because the need for our products and services became exponential in that moment. But we weren't exactly sure what was going to happen. There were stats coming out that maybe 50% of restaurants were going to go out of business. There's just a lot of uncertainty at that time. We had to lay off I think it was around 30 people out of 110. So a size, pretty sizable riff, and it was the most devastating day of my life. I remember sitting in my office thinking like, wow, like I'm responsible for sending these people into this horrible job market, and I feel horrible. And of course, we made it out of that, and 6 months later, ended up raising a SoftBank round at the end of 2020 to continue the acceleration of our growth. But in that moment, it was just like a very devastating moment for me. So glad we got through it, and I hope we never have to go through those types of experiences ever again.
Another quick question here is, what motivates you in the 25th hour? So when your back's against the wall, what kind of pushes you past those obstacles? And you, maybe going back to that moment, can recollect on what's pushing you forward.
What really gets me, and I think our whole team going, is just knowing that we're actually creating something that is legitimately helping carry restaurants forward. Like, throughout the pandemic, we heard restaurants tell us, you're the reason that we're keeping our doors open. You're the reason that our staff is still employed. Like, so hearing that from restaurants is what pushes me in that 25th hour. Just knowing that our products and services are sometimes the difference of them staying in business or not. And I think that's what fires up our whole team as we're thinking about scaling and adding hundreds of restaurants on a monthly basis. At this point, it's like we're really making an impact and a difference in this industry that we know well and love. And I think that continues to attract people who are experts in this industry. And I've been lucky to surround myself with some amazing minds of how to solve these really challenging problems for restaurants. So, has
there been a skill, and we kind of alluded to this before, but a skill that you've picked up as a founder / CEO that you either loved or hated?
Quite a few. I mean, I'm a lot grayer than when I started this business a couple of years ago. I think one of the skills that I've had to learn to just deal with is like rolling with the punches, being ready for whatever's being thrown at me. Like I talk about my mornings, like I kind of wake up to chaos. Like I wake up, my inbox is already full of issues and challenges and problems. You never know what's going to happen next. There's a mixture of exciting things and horrible things all thrown in at the same time. You'll have to, go into a meeting where you find out something horrible, like our product failed for whatever reason. And then you have to walk into the next meeting, which is an investor meeting where you have to put on like your game face and go in and pretend like everything is like working fine, and show up with the same kind of energy that you would as if that meeting didn't just happen. Being able to like go through a day of chaos and stay level-headed is something I've gotten a lot of practice with, and I still probably have a long way to go. So something I'm continuing to work on, but I think it's been really helpful to like just be open to whatever's going on and knowing that it's all happening to the maximum advantage of the company's benefit. Even moments where we've lost a big customer, or somebody on our team who's been with us for a while is moving on to another company. I've learned to realize like you can't get too down on yourself in those situations. You just have to learn from it, move quickly, learn from it, and move on. So. Absolutely.
And that leads me to my next question, which is there anything that you do to decompress, either for mental or physical health?
First of all, I try to get full 8 hours of sleep every night, which is hard, but by the time I go to sleep, I'm so exhausted that it actually is quite easy to pass out and fall asleep. So I think sleep is really important. I do, sometimes I'll walk around the block before a big meeting, take some deep breaths. I've leaned into meditation, which was not something that I thought I'd be able to benefit from the way that I am. I do enjoy going out to live music concerts. I get massages sometimes just to reset my physical body. So, I've tried to lean into a lot of that stuff, but really if I have a big board meeting coming up, or a moment where I have to really be on and executing, my number one recommendation or thing that I know I have to do for myself is just like have a night with friends where we drink wine and just kind of take our minds off everything. So I think it's really helpful to you would think that the night or two before a board meeting, you wouldn't want to drink, but it's like actually a way for me to relax and let loose and show up my best. So I don't know.
No, that's a great
Still
answer.
figuring all this out.
And everybody's different, right? So I think it's super important to find what works best for you, because I think it is critical to be able to decompress and then be able to recalibrate, especially before a big meeting. A few more quick questions before we kind of wrap things up on this front. But one is, do you have a bucket list, and what's one of the more ambitious items on the bucket list?
I don't have a physical bucket list. I should probably make one, but I feel like it would probably be related to travel. There's some places that I'd love to be able to go to that hopefully I'll be able to check out soon. Um, I don't know. Brazil is a place I've always wanted to go, so I'll go with that one.
Okay, cool. And then the last question here is around the idea of legacy and impact. Obviously, coming from like a legacy family of a run business, but what is your personal idea of the impact that you want to leave on the world before you leave it?
Wow, asking big questions here.
It's the last one, right? So you might as well go big.
Sure. I guess I'm still in my 20s, just trying to live out my youth here, and I just feel like I want to make an impact on, like, particularly with this company. Obviously, we're making a big impact to the restaurant industry, and that's motivating and keeps me going. But I also love what we're doing just from a cultural standpoint, being able to hire so many people. Like, I hope that the end result or outcome of whatever happens with this company, whether we go public or there's an exit one day, I'd love to be able to unlock people's first home purchases, and allowing people to have some financial freedom to be able to pursue their dreams. And I've always wanted, coming out of this, people to have on their LinkedIn like X Nextbite, the same way that they do X Uber or Amazon or any of those companies. And we've already seen a fair amount of incredible people that we've had along this journey, moving on and starting their own companies, going to work for Google or Snapchat, or some of the other really interesting businesses in LA and other markets. So I love the idea of that, and I really hope that whatever happens with this business, that we can make a big impact in that way.
Yeah, sounds like it, right? I mean, you're fostering an ecosystem for breeding strong talent, so that's awesome. Cool. Well, that is it on the rapid fire questions. So we'll just jump into a little bit more about your personal journey of how you ended up starting Nextbite, right? So you mentioned that entrepreneurship was something that was kind of ingrained in you at an early age. When was it that you knew that you wanted to start your own business? Obviously, you're saying you mentioned that the expectations of the family business was kind of like on your shoulders, but in addition to that, you wanted to go off and build something on your own, which you have done. What pushed that?
My mom actually made me take this, she made me meet with like a life coach when I was maybe a freshman in high school.
Okay.
Who made me take this like personality test or whatever. And the person who did this test came back to me and was like, "You're totally screwed. You'll never work for anyone for the rest of your life. Like, you're an entrepreneur. Like, there's nothing, like, you're pretty extremely on the end of the results of your answers. Like, there's only one path for you." And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but we'll find out like eventually. And in college, I had started a couple of companies, all massive failures. None of them ever really generated revenue or anything like that, but it was fun to just build and try to solve problems and create experiences. And I had econ as a major, but also went through a lot of the entrepreneurship classes that they offered at the school. And I always loved hearing people's stories, learning about their journeys, watching the kind of story of like coming out of a garage and building a big tech company as a result. And I came back from college fired up with all these ideas for what I wanted to do with the family business. Like, I think I brought in a proposal to franchise Canters and put products in jars of pickles or mustards on grocery store shelves. And my family, as much as they were excited by some of that stuff, I think there was this mentality of like, if it's not broken, don't fix it, slow down a little bit. And I was like ready to run 100 miles an hour. So I ended up finding this interesting food truck company that was based in LA. It was kind of like a marketplace matching events with local food trucks. And There was a technology component within that as well. So in 2016, I spent a year with that company, and through that, I had come across this group of entrepreneurs at a WeWork actually in Playa Vista, and we were all kind of talking about the challenges that restaurants are facing and technology opportunities, and we decided to just kind of drop everything that we were doing and start building a software for Canters to aggregate all the different delivery apps into one manageable device. We had a real restaurant to be able to build and test this within. Canters was already using 14 different delivery apps, so DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, etc. And we had 9 tablets, 2 laptops, and a fax machine to manage all those incoming orders. And that was like, a real problem that we wanted to solve in a business that I was already extremely familiar with, and we had a real stress test environment to be able to operate that out of. And in 2017, we started Ordermark, which was kind of the beginning of the Nextbite journey. The mission was to make it easy for restaurants to sell food online and give them the products and tools and services that they need to be able to reach customers outside of their 4 walls, knowing that was going to be a huge growing segment over time. We had all this information that was telling us like this digital shift was going to happen in restaurants, and online ordering was going to surpass in-store ordering in the next 10 years, et cetera. And we were like, if we can get ahead of this and like create, these solutions for restaurants, I think there's probably something there. But what we didn't realize was like how fast this was going to take off. Like as soon as we had an MVP version of the product, which was like 1 tablet, 1 printer to manage all of your online ordering systems, we immediately started calling on restaurants in LA, telling them that we had built this thing, and everyone wanted in on it. Like originally we were charging like $100 a month per location to use this software. And I think the first like 10 restaurants that I presented this to, like 8 of them had signed up. It was just like immediate product market fit. It felt like we were really hitting on this moment in time of like, this is something that every restaurant is going to need to be able to have their, a modern restaurant business. And in a few quick years, we scaled to thousands of restaurants across the US, from mom and pops to large chains and everything in between. COVID obviously accelerated everything that we were working on and doing. And naturally, we had uncovered, additional problems that restaurants were facing with this, and other opportunities. And particularly, there was one thing that a lot of our restaurants had in common, which was excess capacity in their kitchen to make more food. We had already built the technology to aggregate and consolidate all the incoming ordering streams. And so we thought we were, uniquely positioned to offer this new product at the time called Nextbite in 2019, which was basically these incremental menus and brands that we were creating and layering on top of these existing restaurant businesses. And that became the most meaningful thing that we could focus on for restaurants. So at the end of last year, 2021, we actually rebranded the entire company to be called Nextbite moving forward, which better represents the focus that we have of creating these new virtual restaurant concepts. And rather than opening like ghost kitchens or delivery only kitchen facilities, we look at the 800,000 restaurants in the US as, a lot of underutilized capacity that can be, producing more output. And so we're focused on empowering these restaurants to make more food through these brands. And that's kind of the journey that we've been on so far. So
when we talk about kind of like that switch from Ordermark to Nextbite, is Nextbite and this model, is that the predominant now revenue generating arm of what you guys are doing? And the Ordermark component of that functionality of, basically, and this is I've seen this as a common problem for a lot of restaurants where, again, having too much hardware, software, and then being able to drill it down to a single solution. Like how much is that part of the business now still?
Ordermark is like the underlying technology that we built, where we had to go knock down these partnerships with DoorDash and Uber Eats and build all these APIs, which are basically just better connections to these systems. As we evolved and launched Nextbite, we went from we kind of flipped the model. Instead of charging restaurants a monthly fee like we were with Ordermark, we actually went instead to paying restaurants a percentage of the gross sales of all these incremental orders that we were bringing into their business. And at the same time, that did, wonderful things for our business model as well. We had some restaurants at the beginning of the pandemic that were doing $10, $20, $30,000 a month in incremental gross sales from our brands, of which we're paying the restaurant roughly 55% of that gross sales. And then the remaining 45% is shared between DoorDash and us, or Uber Eats and us. And in some cases, we went from making $100 a month per location to thousands of dollars a month per location in this new business. And so we decided to really double down on that. And it was really a win-win-win for everyone involved. It was great for the online ordering companies offering new content to their consumers. It was great for the restaurants being able to take in that extra revenue when their foot traffic was down. And for us, it was obviously a much more exciting business model, which allowed us to accelerate some of our ramp up and spending. And we at this point, Nextbite has surpassed Ordermark from a sales standpoint. We're actually giving away Ordermark for free once a restaurant commits to taking on at least one of our Nextbite concepts. So it's kind of like a customer acquisition tool and really important underlying technology to power the back end of these virtual brand orders, so that we're not disrupting the restaurant's operations when we bring these new brands in. I think that's a really big differentiator between us and anyone else in the space that's creating new virtual restaurants or new menus to be sold online. Ours comes with this underlying tech system that makes it easy for all the orders to be in one manageable interface, where you have things like menu control. You can pause service on multiple systems, multiple menus from a click of a button. If a large party walks into the restaurant and you don't want to do any more online orders, you can control all of that from the system that we're providing our restaurant. So yeah, I think that giving restaurants that flexibility is a really key component of what we're doing, and it's going to allow Nextbite to scale at the level that we're seeing right now and beyond, because it was intentionally built for managing all that. So
absolutely. I mean, I was smiling ear to ear because I feel like every founder that I've spoken to, a lot of them more seasoned than you in terms of age, right? But not necessarily experience. Because I feel like domain expertise wise, you're like born into this to a certain degree, right? Like, and I don't know how much you think about that now today, but like, it's almost when you speak about it, you're super fluent, and you speak on it maybe as like a 50-year-old would, as opposed to somebody in their 20s, and you have like that, the ins and outs and understandings of it all. What is your family kind of?
It's funny to share with people that I've like been working in the restaurant industry for like 15 years. They're like, right. I don't believe you. Like, it's like, no, I've actually been like waiting tables since I was 13, 14 years old. And like, I've been deep in this for a while, and have thought through a lot of the challenges. And, I was the one in charge of bringing in all the new technology for the family business. So I had to vet the POS systems and bring in, I redid the menu at one point. I renovated the bar. I would like take on these different projects of like documenting all the recipes and just being really hands-on with all the different stuff that was happening out of Canter. I was trying to, revamp the catering business that had like fallen off now that a lot of restaurants got into catering. And all these challenges were fun problems to solve. I used to run around to these restaurant conferences like a kid in a candy store, just signing up for different technologies. And I think I probably drove my family a little nuts, because I was like I was so eager and excited to try all these new marketing tools and ways to help accelerate the business. And I think they were like, this is a lot to handle, but overall, I think it was a really interesting playground for innovation. And I think that really helped give me a perspective on ways to help restaurants with all this stuff.
What does your family think of the past few years of the success that you guys have seen, the exponential growth of the business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they're all really excited by everything that's going on. But I remember at first when I told my dad that like I wasn't going to come into the restaurant every day because I'm working on this project and whatever, he was like, "You're an idiot." Like he was like, "If you're going to do something that's not this like you better kill it in whatever you're doing, because like, this is like a big opportunity for you to come in and, I could really use your help and all this stuff. So I feel horrible that I'm not there helping him every day, because I know he needs he can use some extra support through all the stuff that restaurants are going through right now. It's a really crazy moment in time to be running any restaurant. It's an emotional roller coaster, just the things that are going on, from supply chain to labor shortages to not even being able to access certain ingredients, to like, it's just totally insane what's happening right now. And I think the whole family is excited by a lot of the progress, and I don't think anyone was expecting to see thousands of restaurants using it, but also I feel like this obligation and responsibility to continue helping the family business, and I haven't had the bandwidth or time to do it the way that I'd like to, but I think it's a worthwhile trade-off. Hopefully I'll be able to help more one day. So.
Where do you foresee the business being in the next 5 years? I mean, you guys are on this accelerated fast track. Everything that you're saying makes a ton of sense. I've had some experience working with, with restaurant technology and software, and I understand how antiquated some of these things are. So, and fundamentally what some of the issues are. So, would love to know kind of where you foresee the business going.
Yeah, so Nextbite is going to be the largest restaurant company in the world that doesn't own any restaurants or cook any food. And I think, the best brands that we're building are yet to come. I foresee the next Chipotle or the next Sweetgreen being a brand that only exists online, that is specifically designed and optimized for a delivery-only experience. And I'm fairly confident that we're going to be the ones launching those that level of quality and consistency, and launching brands that consumers absolutely adore and love and come back for on a weekly basis. I think that's on the horizon for us. I see a big international opportunity eventually. Right now we're pretty laser focused on the US, which is definitely the right move, since there's so many restaurants that can benefit from this. But I do see big international implications over time as well.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time today. It's been a pleasure just kind of hearing your journey and the whole nine. Should do this in person next time, but definitely thank you for putting the time away for this.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.